Yeah, this has been going on quite a while, huh?
That's right.
I had a flash of memory there. I've always believed that it was important to share writing out loud whenever possible, particularly poetry. I think that's probably the way it started and the way it should finish. I do remember many years ago, during a summer session, we attempted with some success to keep the readings going even during Florenberg summer. Easier said than done. But we had a different setup than this, and a couple of the young ladies in charge of the forum had a reader from among our peers that they didn't like very much. Wasn't a matter of the literature as much as the personality, and they deliberately set up a tier of cushions that when he leaned over would just keep going. So when I did that, I said, "Woo!" That passed it upon me. A friend of mine that I taught with many years ago at the when I was teaching at the University of Maryland, his name Fred Parrott. He was a PhD in English, a very fine scholar, and I remember when this book was first put together, and I still smile at it, he said, "Oh, you should never use that as a title. The Casket Maker. Ooh, you're going to regret that." And I said, "Well, Fred, the casket is originally a container for precious things. Well, the bodies of our near and dear are precious things. But the point is that before that, the casket was, and the casket was very often a container of gold in which jewels were kept. That's the way I would like to think of this." He said, "Oh, you're going to be sorry." Well, Fred, I'm not. I spent many of my happiest days in the far north. I come from Oregon, in the northwest corner, in the northeast corner of Oregon, near the Idaho border, and we were closer to Boise than we were to Portland, actually. And then when I was in the military, I spent most of my time in Iceland, and subsequently, as a civilian, I taught for a year with some interim back in the States. Then I went back overseas for a year or two with the University of Maryland, and they sent me to Greenland, which was fine with me because I enjoyed it. It seems to me there's an intensity that causes students to be better in that extreme climate. I don't know why. Well, I didn't know why, and then I got to thinking, now, we live in more sophisticated times. In those days, a bomb or two well placed would cut off the means for heat. And so you were always living during the Cold War with the possibility that this could happen. So when you went to class, you might have studied a little more intently than not. That's just my theory. And spring in Iceland, and I do enjoy Iceland. I've been back there 3 times since I got out of the military. Spring comes in May, pretty much, usual. The first of spring, as we get here in maybe early March. This is called Spring in Iceland. If I act like I'm kind of a stranger to this book, I am. It came out a long time ago, and I'm just assuming that most of you don't have it under your pillow and cry yourselves to sleep over it every night. To Iceland, spring comes slowly, late in the solstice, greening the grass and keening the spirit. Late in May weeks a reprieve from plum seaweeds and stay from the stabs of snow seeking shale rock. The light comes to Iceland longing with wind whip, then lulls the tired heart, warms the mind, moves gratitude, longing for summer, permitted by lovers. In May now, in green stuff and this place, forget the winter. We were 50 miles from Reykjavik, the capital. The military base is near the village of Keflavik, so it was called Keflavik Base, although Keflavik is a very small town. It's a long 50-mile gravel road from Keflavik to Reykjavik, and that was the way we went, when we went. It's called Road Seeing Keflavik to Hafnarfjörður. Hafnarfjörður was a large suburb just outside the main city. Pillar clouds and a plain does not belong. Even sheep's wool on the fence is out of place. Tedious, the plain wood church paralleling spire to door, a mock security, secures more through white paint. It looks like 4-bottomed Bunyan plows went through the lava here. Northward, the stacked rock guides the way for ghosts, and west, cold lava far as I can see, stretching into distance, dark. The bay by Keflavik today is, well, blue as new sky. Gunnar turned back to green in his way and burnt, not quite like Njál. Often we turn back, lots of us, remark those houses, walls, lava, knolls, sea, rock, and cloud. Note the white walls and houses in pastels, but most the green, green, green. The reference here to let me find it. Gunnar and Njál. One of the most famous of the Icelandic sagas is the Ballad of Birth, Njál, N-J-A-L. And Njál and Gunnar were two of the Icelandic leaders. I can't remember if they were brothers or not, but when they were besieged by the enemy, the question to stay and fight to the death or flee and save your life became the question. And So the Ballad of Birth came out of that. And Gunnar was fleeing from the battle, and then he screeched to a halt on his horse and said, "I will travel again and go nowhere," and turned back and fought to the death. So that's the reference there, the most famous of the Iceland sagas. This is from an Iceland pasture range. One by a fjord. One whistle on the wind. Less than a second. Gone. 2 dead sheep. The sheep is dead in the middle of the pasture range, rock and green mottle. The manly boy kicks his head, crunches a horn down with an iron prod carefully, says, "Wake up. The flock left here quite a while ago," and laughs heartily. Instantly, silence, and the silence absorbs his laugh. Philadelphia Airport. Rather tired at the Philadelphia airport, and the plane to board an hour and 3 coffees away. What irony that at last, at 5:30 a.m., I am at last moved by emotion. It has been a long time. When the unavoidable, continual, soft music loudspeaker romps a certain German polka. And I remember another airport, other years, and I, who have never wanted to go back before, wish to go back. But one never can in time. And does space matter much? Want some irony? In Germany it was, you weren't there, and I loved you. Christ, with that passion of emotion, intensity, jealous of whomever you were with the dawn pink and blue and gray and the trees mushrooming, clumping, like wanting broiled to red in-country rompers, or maybe someone good at satyrs. And I remember that other airport. I remember a polka, and that I loved you. Now each in maze muddled and adjusting, and no longer in love. Why kid? And I am not even jealous in wild emotion, imaginings. A few people, a few more people. Now we move, you move, I move, from progress to progress, unlove to unlove, anticipating only departures. Off St. George's Bay, Bermuda, April. Quiet but for humming of an ocean-going tug somewhere near. A mile of azure motion, calm as lotus. Lovely under a bright, growing excited flowers. To St. George's it is warm too, with white, pink-washed cottages, coral cut, half-mile across the sound. They glitter and flower above where the still Arosa star stays docked. And the water skiers not yet at their play, nor swimmers. It's a little chilly and a little bit too early. This is the selfish, glorious, secret time for the long look the long look to love, beauty, and love the stillness, to lord it on one's own, knowing the need to believe in some good not quite out of this moment, having it filled. This is called Lidette. Gay and garlanded, down to the dockside, my love came running. Warm that welcoming by azure waters, and both of us laughing. So shall I love her, hearing her laughter at each journey's end, never forgetting my smiling and flowered, my dear love, running. Now I know that there are those who are very irritated by place names, but I think that most people who like poetry agree that if they don't understand the place names are important, because we each have our sack full of them that are very important to us and are totally meaningless to other people. Like my hometown of Yuma Pine, spelled with a U. I get more teasing about that, and still I think it's important for all of us. You've got your bag full of Yuma Pines too, I know. Going south. They'd made the start from North Washington, passed through Walla Walla, Milton Freewater, I joining there the busload, and God, but they were without. So little. Blankets and baskets and the Greyhound creaking. Baskets and blankets, glasses and rubber boots, knotted brown hands, and everything, and hope on board, in short. Up and down hills. Weston, Athena, Pendleton. And I remember somewhere in between he looked at her and murmuring through his 70-wintered and rheumatic head, he said, "Mother, I can feel it already. It's getting warmer." Said, "We're in Oregon now, you know, it's quite a difference." I couldn't wince, nor could I choose to ponder on the heart's brown moment, with 12 above outside, and cold feet too. I knew it really wasn't getting warmer. Mountains ahead and open land with gusts and wind soon up the Columbia River Gorge on the right. The South Mountain Country, ditto. My God, I said inside, how can they keep this poor act up, this poor pretense of hope? But they had to, and they knew, and I knew, and I wanted with them, but knew it wasn't getting any warmer, except perhaps the region of the heart. As you may know, the American poet, often called the father of 20th century American poetry, Ezra Pound, spent 13 years in St. Elizabeth's Mental Hospital in Washington, D.C., rather than be tried for treason because of a couple of remarks he made after World War II was declared. And I couldn't help but think of that one summer day when I was walking outside our little country house in Oregon and noticed a broken flower. It's called Parallels Humapine, or EP. Ding dongs the broken hollyhock. From stem atop, red flowers in early afternoons, warm early hours swing spent. Bloomings continue roundabout, abject defeat and side by luscious decay. And without seeing early August's breeze competing with the blizzard, devastation too is relative. Tidal wave, typhoon. I grew up deep in the country, and happily, I was raised by my maternal grandparents. Happily, the maternal grandparents had always read poetry at supper, at the supper table prior to the evening meal. And so that part of the family was infused with poetry, while the other part, equally Scotch-Irish, was not infused with poetry, but rough riding and rolling. This is called Voices for Grandfather's Memory. It has an epigraph, or quasi-epigraph. Roll your tails and roll 'em high, we'll all be angels by and by. Which he liked to sing to the cows, herding them in some milking times. Father or God, pain or sleep, and a dog with glittering eye uplifted. Never admit when you are bested. That is that requested. Lilt and love the Eden days and yellow pumpkin, tractor and lane and the clean dust. Fly in the water jug. How long ago that August day I dumped it all, and somehow he held that temper in check. Shocked on that day, we suddenly knew our time together was short. Then October, the boy by the bed, in tears, through tears, wanting an answer, turned the crank. So lived and loved and hurt, moved towards a man, planned by hope but life by fight. Up by his, and the fence went down. Chased the cows for a last time in. Lose the dare, but goddamn death. Into the dark night, he went by the day, hated and loved and racked with pain, gray of hair and keen of hurt, roomy of eye from recurrent thought, reft of hope but full of will-be. Father and warrior finally said, "This is enough. Hell is now and heaven plenty." I think pasture greeting heard my heart weep when I buried my face in the brown cow's side and wetted her hair with tears. Father and God, pain and sleep, dog with innocent eye uplifted. Never admit when you are bested. that is that requested. Littleton loved the Eden days, the hayrake days, the pumpkin time and frequent pheasant, tractor and lane, and the clean dust. This is enough. Chapter. At evening on your farm, did you ever put eggs in your pockets? I'll start again. At evening on your farm, did you ever put eggs in your pockets? See if you could do what others had screwed up at? You know, they busted them once, some kid, Dad said. One time I got brave enough too, scared at that, because my Aunt Exa was there, and I found this nest by the ditch. And I put 2 in each pocket and ran like hell. They busted. And boy, it was good, and it was slick, and I felt sick, and I knew I'd goofed. But nobody scolded, since Exa was there. Who's sorry he tried running? Have you ever seen a real beautiful hurt bird that looked calm, possessed, unruffled, so that the wound surprised you when you found it, though somehow you knew it would stay, but unless it had to, it would end. And feeling it, the wound hurt you, and you wished you could take it somehow, take it from the bird, for which you already felt the feeling, love, and tears at the ready, on the quick assembly line. And you knew that its dying or its getting well would free it. So away it would go flying. That would be the last you'd see of that. But you can't just my mentor